Alton Towers has a major flat ride problem. Alton Towers prides itself on being a world-class amusement park with a great diversity of rides, attractions, roller coasters, surrounded by immersive theming and shows in one of the most picturesque and unique locations for a theme park anywhere in the world. Yet despite all of this, Alton Towers is severely lacking in the flat ride department, and unfortunately I cannot see this problem being resolved anytime soon, and this may actually be a problem that continues to plague the park for many years to come. So stick around to find out why I believe Alton Towers has a major flat ride problem. Welcome to Coasternaut, and if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and subscribe for future updates and news on Alton Towers and their collection of flat rides and coasters, as there'll be plenty more news updates in the future whenever the park makes any announcements regarding future changes and additions to the park, hopefully talking about the removal of certain flat rides at the park, which we'll get into, and the additions of some brand new flats in the future. So why do I think that Alton Towers has a flat ride problem, and what do I mean by that? Alton Towers is one of, if not probably the best theme park here in the UK. It's definitely one of the most popular, and when we're talking about thrills, definitely is the most popular. Obviously you've got parks like Legoland that have a massive attendance, but in terms of thrills, Alton Towers is definitely up there as probably the biggest theme park here in the UK. If we look at the park's current offering of rides, they do have hardly any flat rides throughout the park. Most of the flat rides they do have are for kids or families. As such, there are a few in Pirate Cove. These are things like Marauder's Mayhem, the Barrel Ride, and Heave Ho, which is the Zamperla Rocking Tug. However, outside of this area, the only real permanent flat, not just for families, and that can satisfy some of the thrill market, is the Blade. And even then, this is a very old-fashioned pirate ship style ride located in the Forbidden Valley themed area of the park. And like I say, it's definitely not up to the modern standard of a lot of modern day flat rides in terms of the thrill market, and so for that reason, yeah, there really is not many thrill rides here at Alton Towers. So as you can see here, there is a clear lack of flat rides in total at the park for all ages. However, especially the thrill rides aimed at older guests and thrill seekers have been completely undermined at the park in recent years. We do not have any sort of unique flat rides either. Most of the ones here are generic and can be found at a lot of other parks. Over the past few years, Alton Towers have also removed a lot of fan favourite flat rides, such as the Hush Top Spin, Ripsaw, and the Zamperla Enterprise and X Sector. However, Enterprise has been poorly looked after for years and has never really been open and has struggled with maintenance problems for many years now. The removal of these multiple flat rides has left a real lack of any true permanent thrilling flats at the park, and this is due to, like I say, a real lack of investment by the park in these type of attractions over the past few years, and probably decades really. Alton have focused on large coaster additions in the past, and in recent years have tried to, re-go into their dark rides in terms of things like bringing back Nemesis Subterra, revamping Jewel into the Haunting of Alton Manor, and I can see them also doing work on Hex in the next few years as well. So for that reason, there has been a real lack of investment in the park in terms of adding to the flat ride department. As part of the 2021 season, Alton Towers introduced 3 new flat rides to the park, which sounds good. This was under the name of the Retrosquad. However, these were 3 funfair style temporary flat rides that were designed to move around different locations on the funfair circuit, and therefore were not permanent additions to the park with permanent foundations and good surrounding theming and backstories like that. These rides were added to the park because of the pandemic, which reduced park capacity, and also meant some rides could not operate to their maximum capacity too. So these rides were introduced to the park as a temporary way to increase park capacity. Initially just for the 2021 season, at least that's how it was proposed to park fans. These rides were spread throughout the park in multiple themed areas. However, they all seemed very out of place, as they are not themed like the surrounding areas at all, and were just plonked down in the park, which seems very out of place for any theme park, let alone a world-class theme park like Alton Towers that prides itself on theming and backstories. And Alton Towers, like I say, really is one of the most picturesque parks in the world, so to have these sort of blaring loud music and flashing lights for funfair rides at this theme park really did seem out of place. In the 2022 season, one of these Retrosquad rides was switched out for a different theme park ride, which was another funfair circuit ride, and in 2023 again a different ride was switched out again and replaced with another funfair ride. This one was called Twistertron. I do commend Alton Towers and their marketing team especially for trying to give these rides a backstory and theme them slightly. They've all got different names, they've all supposedly got an interlinking story about coming down to the park from the 80s, and Twistertron, like I say, is apparently now here and is supposedly coming here to destroy the Retrosquad. at least that's what we saw in the backstory video when the ride was announced to the park. We've not actually really seen or heard anything about that since, but that's how it was sold to fans. And because of that led to many fans and enthusiasts believing that these rides would have finally be removed at the end of the 2023 season, because as I said, they do seem so out of place now. And now that the world has come out of the pandemic, the park is now operating again at full capacity, and therefore the reason that these rides were brought into Alton Towers in the first place has been completed, and at this point they really should be removed. They look very out of place. Many fans are not liking them anymore, and so as I said before, Alton Towers desperately needs some new modern day flat rides to be added, especially up to modern day standard, and this is specifically for the thrill market. However, some family flats would also do well, because the family flats are also quite old fashioned as well. A top class flat ride manufacturer such as Zamperla these days, they are probably the best flat ride manufacturer in the world, given the variety of rides that they do make. They have so many different rides these days, and many parks do often do package deals for these rides. So, I can see a lot of these rides coming to the park at once. I don't think anyone wants to see the Retrosquad around for any longer at all. I think fans are pretty desperate to see them go at this point. So I would hope they go at the end of the 2023 season. However, I now think that the Retrosquad may be sticking around for the 2024 and potentially even the 2025 season as well, and we won't actually see new permanent flats come to the park until the 2026 season, so sort of 3 more years until we get any permanent flats. And let me go into why I think that. So obviously in the 2024 season, the park is reopening Nemesis, the B&M Invert, and it's never cheap to buy a B&M coaster. They are known to be one of the most expensive manufacturers out there. Obviously, the park won't have to spend money on designing this coaster because the design is fully complete. However, I still think this is going to be an investment that's over tens of millions of pounds, especially when you consider adding in the cost of theming the ride and revamping the whole area, including adding new shops and food outlets and repaints. In 2025, it also looks like we are getting another brand new roller coaster with the Project Horizon project. We don't know much about this ride yet, other than it's going to be a large indoor ride of some sort. However, it is a very large show building that is being built at the back of the park. There's likely going to be a lot of theming because it's Alton Towers, and we do know this is going to be an investment somewhere around the £15 million mark as well, I think. So for that reason, I can't see the park adding any new flat rides in these next 2 years, the main one being for cost reasons. However, also I can't see the park wanting to overshadow, having to market and advertise these brand new 2 coasters to the park, and then also saying, oh, by the way, we've also got these new flat rides for you. The only way I could see flat rides opening in these next few years is similar to how Nemesis Subterra opened halfway through this year to not detract fans away from the brand new revamp of Jewel. And potentially we could see new flat rides open midway through the 2024-2025 season, but we have seen no reports of this at all, and therefore I cannot see it happening. Unfortunately, therefore I can see the Retrosquad rides staying around for the end of the 2025 season, and then finally being replaced by some flat rides in the 2026 season. One thing to note is the general public actually seem to love the Retrosquad rides. Funfair circuits are very popular throughout the world, and therefore I think fans actually come to Alton Towers and love the sight of these Retrosquad rides. I think they look very familiar to some guests. They aren't as scary as some of the bigger rides to some guests, and obviously, like I say, music can bring the guests in, the flashing lights can bring the guests in. So I have seen people queue nearly an hour for some of these Retrosquad rides, and maybe that's a thinking for the park. These rides were likely very, very cheap to bring in, nowhere near the price of a permanent flat, and therefore I think the ride have stayed around for longer because of how popular they've been with the general public in the park. I do think they do find it needs to go though, and when they do go, as I said a minute ago, I can see the park not waiting around and doing sort of one edition of flat rides each year. I think the park will probably go for a package deal from some manufacturer, hopefully Zamperla. For example, Aeronautica Landing is a brand new themed area that opened at Carowinds in the USA this year. Here in the UK, Drayton Manor opened with multiple new Zamperla rides when they opened their Vikings themed area in the 2022 season. So I can see for the 2026 season, this is probably my prediction, the 2026 season, potentially 2, 3 or 4 new Zamperla flat rides coming to the UK, hopefully a Nebulas, potentially a Disco, something like that, maybe 1 family flat and maybe 2 or 3 thrilling flats, all themed to different areas throughout the park, probably 1 in Forbidden Valley, 1 in X Sector, potentially 2 in X Sector, and then maybe 1 in the Dark Forest up near Rita and 13. So then, what do you guys make of this topic? How can Alton Towers solve their flat ride problem, or do you think they don't even have a flat ride problem at all? I'd love to hear down below. When will the Retrosquad be removed? Do you enjoy seeing the Retrosquad around still? And I'd love to hear your feedback and thoughts and comments on all of these topics down below. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a like and subscribe to the channel for future news and updates on Alton Towers as and when we get it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.